Hello, I'm Tom, an old guy who's been making wooden model ships for about 40 years. I'm no expert modeler. There are some amazing modelers out there, including Olha Batchvarov, who is to wooden ship models what Plasmo is to plastic ship models. There are many others, and a quick search in YouTube will land you with hours of material to inspire you or humble you, depending on your mindset. Although I've been building wooden ship models for about 40 years, my skill peaked at a level of about 5 out of 10, and I'm okay with that. I'm a firm believer that the perfect is the enemy of the good. It's not that I accept mediocrity, and I don't try to push myself, but as Dirty Harry Callahan said in Magnum Force,
"Man's got to know his limitations."
A man's gotta know his limitations. My goals with building wooden model ships are the same as the day I bought my first kit. To have an enjoyable hobby, learn more about sailing ships and maritime history, and end up with an attractive model I would not be ashamed to display in my home. I never set out to make masterpieces, just the best I was personally capable of. I've built about 30 models, and only 2 were so substandard that I scrapped them completely. I've given away more than a few, and I know at least one met a grisly end with firecrackers at the hands of a friend's teenage hooligans. This is the first kit I built, the Prince de Neuchâtel, a privateer from the War of 1812. I struggled so much with the planking of the hull that I had to discard the twisted and hideously bumpy hull halfway through the planking process. I then used the plans to recut the keel and frames and start it over. Geez, I really need to dust my ships more often. Anyway, besides the dust and the extra rigging added by spiders, I am proud of this kit, and prouder still that I stuck with it to the end. That being said, I'm an advocate for the hobby. Just because you might not turn out a museum quality model does not mean you won't have a great time making a display piece on your very first kit. And trust me, unless you invite Drakenophel or the Annapolis class of '95 to your house, no one will notice the small, or even not so small, boo-boos you make on the road from keel to sails. You will be proud of finishing and displaying your work, and you will have the experience of having coaxed a box of splinters and thread into something of lasting value. But where to start? What should a beginner look for in a first kit? Ship type. Most of us who have at least a passing interest in the age of sail have a particular ship type that resonates with our inner sailor. Sure, there are kits of rowboats and dinghies, but those don't float my boat. My tastes run to the bigger ships. Make mine a frigate or a sturdy English or French ship of the line, with row upon row of cannons and gun ports. Or how about a pirate ship? Because don't all good stories have pirates? Maybe you love the clean lines of a sleek China tea clipper with acres of sail and massive spars. You might have a particular ship in mind, like Old Ironsides or the HMS Victory. Any of these is a great place to use as a foundational motivation for your first model, but do not become fixated on a particular ship and be willing to downsize while you build your skills. Sailing ships fall into 2 camps. Fore and aft rigged and square rigged. The HMS Victory, USS Constitution, and clipper ships fall into this style. The masts are crossed by a T with many yards that hold the sails. Fore and aft ships look like sailboats one might see on a lake, where the sails are aligned more or less with the center line of the ship, and they're a little bit easier to rig. Some ships are a hybrid of the 2 styles, such as brigs and barks and schooners. These usually have large fore and aft rig sails and a couple of square rig sails on the main mast. My suggestion, a hybrid like a brig, bark, or schooner is the best first kit. The simpler fore and aft rigging is less intricate, but having at least one square sail will teach the beginner both rigging methods, so when you finally tackle that big old Constitution, you'll be more confident. Choose a ship you like, and you're more likely to see it to completion. Size. Size and scale are linked. Generally, the larger the scale, the larger the final result. Most kits of popular ships run about 1/65th to 1/100th. At this scale, the cannons, anchors, and other bits and bobs are not too small for the beginner to work with. My suggestion? Start with a medium-sized, about 12 to 18 inch long hybrid rigged brig or schooner. A caravel is also a good choice, as the sails run parallel to the wall when displayed, really showing them off. Detail and complexity. This is a tough one to quantify and varies quite a bit by manufacturer. Some companies are very detail-oriented and provide a challenging kit at every scale and size. Others are known for making simplifications and leaving out the details. Generally, the price will solve this issue for you, so I assume you have a budget in mind, and that will determine the complexity of your kit. The lowest price on a sailing ship model I found on Amazon was $17, but I would never suggest this kit for a beginner, or anyone actually. You should expect to pay between $100 and $300 for a quality kit of appropriate size and complexity for your first project. You should expect to spend 100 to 300 hours building it. That's cheaper than golf and healthier than cigars, and you have something to show for your work when it's done. Companies. Being a first-time builder, you might be overwhelmed by the number of companies that you find. So here are some companies that I have personally built kits from or examined their kits firsthand. They're alphabetical and they aren't paying me a dime. No one is. This channel is not monetized, obviously. Amati, Artesania Latina, Billing Boats, Blue Jacket, Corel, Mamoli, Mantua, Model Shipways, Acre. There are a few others, but I haven't had their product in my hands, so I'm not going to vouch for them. Generally, any kit in the $100 to $300 price range you select from the companies I mentioned will be a good starter kit. That being said, here are some concrete examples of solid first-time kit choices in no particular order. Amati Lady Nelson, $140. What I like: large full-size plans, instructions in English, quality woods and materials, simple rigging, nice fittings. What I don't like: it doesn't have any sails, although you could add those pretty easily, and there's no display board included. 2. Acre Polaris, $120. What I like: it's got beautiful lines, it's a classic schooner. Easy fore and aft rigging, ready to hang sails are included, instructions in English, quality fittings. What I don't like: the hull's kind of bland. It could use some embellishment. The deck could use some barrels and crates, you could put some external decoration on the hull, and the display cradle they provide is made out of plywood. 3. Acre Albatross, $135. What I like are the great lines, hybrid rigging, quality materials and fittings, challenging but achievable hull and deck for first-timers. What I don't like: same thing, no display cradle. Number 4. Artesania Latina Nina, $140. What I like: exceptionally easy to build hull, iconic ship, good quality woods, good fittings, impressive display piece when you're done, nice ready-to-use sails, and really good-looking flags. What I don't like: the instructions have minimal English, they don't really have good rigging guidance, and again, the displayed cradle looks cheap. 5. Billing Boats Racing Schooner America. What I like: it's an impressive display piece, 22 inches long, and it's narrow enough for just about any shelf. It's got a sleek hull, beautiful deck fittings and furniture, it's got skylights, windows, very nice sails. What I don't like: again, it needs a better display than the plywood cradle that's provided. That's a common thing with these kits, they really don't think about displaying. To me, if you're going to spend the time to assemble one of these, spring for a pair of brass pedestals and find a little piece of wood at your local Home Depot or in your garage and make yourself a very nice display board for it. It's worth the time. Well, that's my take on choosing your first kit. I'm going to put a few links in the description for online sellers that I've used and some next level YouTubers that you probably should have watched instead of me, though I'm grateful for your time. If you got anything out of my ramblings, please like, share, and subscribe. Helps grow my channel. Most importantly, if you are considering buying a wooden ship model, I encourage you to start. Start small with just the minimum of tools and a modestly priced kit from a reputable seller. Once completed and displayed in a place of honor, you'll look at it for years to come and remember fondly the time well spent in building it. Thanks.